habit that becomes really addictive where you're just looking for the next thing. Hey guys, hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about a topic that's very interesting to me right now, and that is the topic of a lot of people quitting social media, whether they're creators or just regular people. So the video, it was a whole production that this guy did. I think his name was Valley or something, and he talked about the reasons why people are quitting social media altogether. And so I'm going to talk about it from the major reasons to, content creators, why they're doing that. Because it's just really interesting. Because there was a time where there was just, everybody was getting on social media. It was the thing, right? Then a couple years in, I noticed the change because I remember coming back to YouTube when I started really posting consistently. I was looking for some of the people that I was subscribed to that I used to watch, and a lot of their accounts were abandoned. A lot of them went to TikTok or Instagram, and then some people just don't even post anymore. And I was really bummed because there's people that I really loved watching on here that disappeared. And reading, and they're saying that, social media is going to be just TV. It's going to be like the TV in your living room, where that's what people are going to be watching versus like having cable and all that other stuff. So it got me really thinking. So one of the reasons why they said a lot of people are quitting social media altogether is because the social part is gone. A lot of people, it's mass productions now, and people just want to make their money, make the content, and go about their day. The interaction part is kind of like whatever. And if people want to interact, they're kind of interacting to leave negative comments a lot of times. It's also become, another reason that they said is that everybody is just scrolling mindlessly. There's so much information to the point where people are just scrolling and they become numb, So it's from how to grow your hair to all the way to how to fix a vacuum. And you're just doing this all day. And to a certain point, it becomes this scrolling habit that becomes really addictive where you're just looking for the next thing. So you got people that are posting like so many times a day, and then you see people that are just doing this. So it's almost like you're getting all this information, but then the information is just sitting there, and it's just like, you just feel like, your eyeballs are spinning because it's like, whoa, And so whoever came up with all this stuff on social media, really got it down because they know how to get that money. Because if they get money just based on people scrolling, they're definitely getting that because it's not a lot of thought required into that. So, and then the algorithm, keeps feeding you whatever it is that you're clicking on. And before you know it, you're just scrolling and scrolling. And the target of social media, they said that when a lot of people created it was just to take your time away, like to take your time. And they're doing a great job at that because when they make things that are just scrollable, that's what you're doing. You look down, you're on TikTok and you're doing this and you're doing this. Before you know, you look up, it's been 2 hours. You've been sitting there just laughing away, scrolling away. And you're like, oh my gosh, that 2 hours you could have done something else. And it becomes really addictive where some people, they're just overwhelmed and they're just like constantly trying to keep up. Because the minute that you don't, the algorithm kind of punishes you and you no longer show up. So social media kind of forces you to have to always be on. Like I was watching another YouTuber who said, it forces you to be constantly on. And sometimes you don't want to be on. But if you're not, and you're not somebody that's like super popular that has like companies and businesses and sponsorships, you find yourself really having to be on a lot. And sometimes you just are burnt out. There's been a lot of people that have unalived themselves because they got too overwhelmed. It was too much. And it's just like, it's out of control right now, guys. So when it comes to creators, a lot of YouTubers, a lot of social media content creators are tired because they're putting in the work and they're not getting the return that they expect. So I watched a YouTuber who was comparing. She posted 3 videos. These 3 videos did fairly well. And one of them, she made like $500 on it. One of them was $9. And so she was really upset because she's like, there has to be an error because this does not make sense. This video is kind of similar to the other one. The views are great. And when she went in, she realized that she only made $9 for something that should have been like maybe $1,000. And so she wrote to YouTube and complaining about this whole thing. They said there was a glitch. They're going to work on it and fix it. And they never did. So to this day, she's still saying that she never got that money for those videos, the amount that she really was supposed to get. And pretty much they kind of said, there's nothing we can do about it. Life goes on. So this is one of the reasons why it becomes really tough when you are really trying to put content out there and you're not getting that return that you expect. Another thing is dealing with so many negativity coming from people. So some of the negativity is uncalled for. One person mentioned that your negativity is always tied to how you look. Everything about you, from all the way from your head to your toe. Somebody has something to say about every little thing. And people are like, well, you should expect that because you're on social media. But you can't understand how many times you can ignore stuff until it gets to you. I remember, I've always been the delete and block person until one comment came up where I posted this TikTok saying how I'm happy to be married to a Mexican man. And this person left me a comment saying that when you mix with black and Mexican, the babies are never cute. They're cute when it's white and Mexican. And that comment really it took everything out of me to want to respond back with like a page of cursing the person out. But then I was like, you know what? Why am I wasting my breath? Because there's always going to be some other comment out there for something else. So I just left the thing. I blocked the person, deleted, and moved on. So it's only sometimes we're humans, and sometimes people forget that. They just keep leaving these comments that are so negative, and people get tired of it, where a lot of people just turn their comments off. So the whole thing where you're putting yourself out there, and you are putting yourself and saying, oh my gosh, here comes whatever attacks that are going to come towards me. Like, you're just open to that. If you don't block your comments, pretty much, you're open to that. You are really putting yourself out there every day to be seen, to make your content, to be in the algorithm. And you are saying, oh my gosh, whatever comes, comes. If people want to attack me, they're pretty much going to attack me. And that is hard sometimes, people. People don't realize that. When you don't do it, you don't understand how it feels to be. It's like standing there and telling people to come by and judge you, and having to take that in consistently. After a couple of years, some people just get fed up and they close their accounts and move on with life because they can't deal with it anymore. For people nitpicking every single thing about them. So that's one thing. Another thing is that, this whole thing about being on. Some people struggle with that because, YouTubers and social media people have lives. Their moms, their wives, their sisters, their husbands, and all that stuff. So you come on here, you're dividing your time, and you're being forced to be on so much that sometimes you have burnout. Because I experienced that. There was a time I was posting so back to back. I didn't have a really nice schedule for it. And I found myself just constantly on the phone editing, replying comments. And I was walking with my son and my husband one time. We were enjoying this little nice view, went to eat, whatever. And he saw me and he saw my face was just like stressed out because I was like, oh my gosh, my watch time. And I was like constantly trying to post videos. Every event that we went to, I would try to post it because I was like, I got to keep up with, the algorithm. I got to be picked up. I got to come back to this consistently. And I was just constantly on my phone, like looking at stuff and getting ideas. Like I just felt like my head was spinning. And so he was like, you're stressed, and he talked to me and I started saying, okay, let me have a schedule for posting because that burnout is real, guys. It is so real to try to balance yourself into different things and having to come on here and be seen, because when you're not, it's like a punishment that the algorithm doesn't pick you up. So when I saw a lot of YouTubers that I used to watch, their accounts were just abandoned, it made me feel some way. And a lot of people never returned, and I was like, wow, what is going on? So yeah, this whole thing, the video really did a great job of just explaining. And also, the income is not consistent. So a lot of people like that are, for example, nurses or people that are working regular jobs, a lot of them are going back to regular jobs so that they can just keep YouTube or social media as something on the side because the income is not consistent. So if you have, let's say you make $4,000 every month and 1 month you don't make that, you are stuck and you have bills to pay. Let's say you have a partner, for example, that might be a little helpful. But for people like, let's say that are single moms, that this is their full content, their income, and, they have to keep up and to try to make that same amount every month. And if you don't, you're kind of stuck and having to figure out, okay, how am I going to get the other money that I didn't make, And that's that's stressful. Another thing is sometimes, forcing people to go to the extreme to get the views, to get the engagement. And so that whole thing where sometimes you just have to, you're constantly trying to think of what controversial topic should I bring up, to try to get views and to try to get money. So the money part has made people go really low sometimes. And one of the things that you see is so much nudity. Everywhere you click, there's constant, of people flashing, a lot of women flashing boobs and butt. And if for guys, they're doing these topics that are just like, whoa, like, wow, we're really talking about this, And people are like, oh my gosh, you're so desperate. Like, why would you go that low just for views? I'm unclicking, I'm not watching you anymore. But you don't realize that these people need that income coming in if that's all they got. They're relying on this for the income. So they're going to do whatever it takes to get people to watch their videos. So that pushing thing where people are pushing a boundary, like pushing, pretty much going as far as they can to try to get the views is a lot sometimes, And you find yourself when you don't do that, people look at your regular life or whatever regular videos that you post and nobody's watching. You're like, dang, maybe I need to consider that. Because I always joke that I got a bum that can sell some money, and sometimes I'm like, maybe I should just post that go on Instagram and TikTok and post my butt, because maybe I'll make money faster versus trying to post real content. So it's just this world that once you're in it, it starts becoming so like, just, you're in it, fully in it, and you're just trying to find ways to kind of come back out of it, but it becomes really difficult. So I really understand why a lot of people are just quitting social media altogether. A lot of people are deleting their accounts because a lot of people that are also, for example, communicating with you only virtually, but they don't communicate you in real life. I've had people that comment somewhere on my video, for example, and I'm like, well, you don't talk to me in person. Like, why can't you say something to me in person when you saw me or whatever? But you come back and say, oh, hey, I saw you, blah. So at the end of the day, everybody's quitting social media for different reasons. A lot of people, it's an income situation where the income is not consistent. So you got to figure out a way to make up for that, Another thing is the negative comments. And, people nitpick all day about different things about you. And at a certain point, there's people that just can no longer handle it. Their mental health is at risk, and they're like, you know what? F all of this. I'm done. I'm blocking the comments, or I'm just deleting my account altogether. The other thing is also virtual relationships, where some people just talk to you online, even family members, but they don't interact with you in real life. Or, even support you, but they will be all over, talking about this and this all over social media. It's also this whole thing where you're constantly, punished if you don't post often. The algorithm punishes you. So you also feel like you have to be on. Like you could be enjoying a nice dinner and you think, oh, this must be a content moment. Let me post this. And then before you know, you're that time away with spending with the people that you love is taken away. And so you're just like, oh my gosh, you're constantly trying to figure out, I got to post content. And then you're taken away sometimes from your life, your regular life, The other thing is that, a lot of people become so, so for example, once they get that little fame, they are just out of touch. And a lot of people no longer find them relatable. And it's just like, push to click this link, purchase this. Oh my gosh, I love this. You have to check it out. It's so many products and so many things being pushed at you to the point where it's just overwhelming. The other thing was this whole thing where there's so much information given at every scroll. You're doing this all day. Before you know, you're spending hours and hours. And you're so overwhelmed with so much information to the point where your head is just spinning. And then you just kind of like, bleh. And so like, for example, kids, when they're having screen time, when they go into like regular classrooms, a lot of them have trouble even just sitting down and just focusing because they're so used to just watching things that are just constantly entertaining and loud. And so when a teacher is like standing down the board, teaching on the board, they just want to push the teacher away like it's another scroll. So kids are getting that habit early on where they're just like, I got to scroll you. And it's like, no, this is real life. There's a teacher right in front of you. You need to pay attention. But it's like their attention span is gone. So they said that, the goal of social media was to get people scrolling and to take time away from people. And they're doing a great job at it because how many times I can't tell you I was scrolling on TikTok for one thing, like looking up, for example, a recipe. And before I know it, I'm watching 3 or 4 talk. And then it's like I've spent almost an hour and a half or 2, scrolling. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, there are 2 hours I could have done something. So we get so much information, for example, how to fix your debt. How many people actually physically going out there to fix their debt? A lot of them are just watching that and scrolling to the next thing. So your fingers are just ready to scroll for something next, to see the controversy, to get the drama and all that. And then that's all you're doing. And then your life is just slowly going away. Time is just going. And before you know, you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck? So it's also addictive in that way. Everybody's just like, oh, I gotta go check that on Instagram. I gotta go check this. And it's like, no. Putting your phone down, like me, I struggle with that. Putting your phone down, just leave it there. It's something that's hard for me. Like at a certain time, I'm like, you need to shut that down and put it on the side and go to bed. But no, I'm looking up different things. And before I know it, I'm like, it's 1 a.m. I didn't get enough good sleep and all that stuff. They've shown so many, like teens, for example, that are just completely aggressive and have lost it because when their phones are not there, they feel like they're missing such a huge chunk of something. Like, they feel like their life is just going to end because they don't have access to social media or their phones. And so it's really problematic, and it's causing a lot of people to quit it altogether because the addiction can be real. So at the end of the day, social media has its pros, but a lot of them now, it's a lot of cons. And, a lot of people are just like, the numbers are not matching. A lot of people, the income that they get is like, it's not adding up, and people are just like, okay, I'm not going to be here posting videos back to back and I can't even guarantee that I'm going to have the income that I need to support my family or support my life. So a lot of people are just like, you know what, let me go to a regular job that at least I know I'm getting the benefits, I'm getting this, and keep social media on the side, or close it all together. You know, it's supposed to be social, but a lot of people are no longer interacting. They're just pushing products and pushing this and all that. And then it's like, you're not interacting with the people that are supporting you and followers. What is the point? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's just, there's so many more cons now that are popping up with social media. Yes, it's useful to have information, but then when it's too much, you just are not even reacting anymore. You're just numb. You're just scrolling. So yeah, I just wanted to share that, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.